Philippines was experiencing economic reform and modernization. The coinage system reflected these changes with cleaner, bolder designs. Obverse design. The front obverse features the national hero José Rizal, a symbol of Philippine independence and intellect. His portrait is flanked by the inscription, Republica ng Pilipinas and the Mint Year 2000. Reverse design. The reverse shows the new seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas BSP adopted in 1993. After the central bank was restructured post-Marcos era, this seal replaced the older Central Bank of the Philippines. Copper-nickel to nickel-plated steel. The year 2000 marked a continuation of the switch to nickel-plated steel, which was cheaper and more corrosion-resistant than previous alloys, helping the government reduce minting costs. Symbolism of José Rizal. Rizal's image emphasizes values of education, nationalism, and freedom. His presence on the 1 Piso coin reinforces the cultural significance of everyday money. Importance of the BSP seal. The new seal symbolized a more independent, globally engaged Philippine monetary policy crucial during the recovery from the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Economic climate in 2000. Under President Joseph Estrada, the country was navigating economic challenges and political instability. Coins like this became markers of stability during uncertainty. Mintage. Volume. The BSP produced millions of 1 Piso coins in 2000, making it relatively common in circulation, but valuable in uncirculated or mint state condition. Circulation use, widely used in public transport, markets, and daily purchases. The 1 Piso coin became a functional necessity for Filipinos in the early 2000s. Collectible status, though common, errors, uncirculated pieces, or proof sets from this year are sought after by collectors. Known variants and errors. Some coins may show misaligned dies, weak strikes, or off-center errors, which can increase their value significantly. Symbol of national identity. With native heroes and updated government seals, the coin acted as a miniature billboard of Filipino pride and progress. Educational value. Many schools and history lessons use this coin to teach about José Rizal and the transformation of Philippine currency. Millennial coin. As a coin minted in the year 2000, it represents a millennial piece marking the Philippines' entry into the 21st century. Numismatic value. While circulated coins are generally worth face value, reflects the country's ecological heritage and commitment to conservation. Inscription 25 centimo and wailing. Floral design. Detailed orchid petals encircling the denomination. The mid-1990s was a period of recovery and economic growth for the Philippines. President Fidel V. Ramos focused on modernization and globalization, and there was a renewed sense of national identity. The 25 centimo coin issued in this era symbolized both economic progress and cultural pride. In 1995, this coin was part of everyday commerce and had purchasing power, especially for small items like candies or jeepney fare. However, due to inflation and currency evolution, it's no longer in active circulation. Today, the 1995-5 Sentimo coin is considered a minor collectible, especially in uncirculated or mint condition. Valued by numismatists for its part in the Flora and Fauna series, not very rare, but sentimental and historical for collectors of Philippine coins, events, and symbols of cultural significance. Each coin in the series carried a unique pairing of a Filipino hero and a species from the country's natural world. The inclusion of Juan Luna on the 25 centimo coin is deeply meaningful. He wasn't just a painter, he was a freedom fighter, diplomat, and intellectual. Luna was active during the propaganda movement, a peaceful campaign that aimed for political reform during Spanish colonization. He was one of the first Filipinos to gain international recognition in European art circles. His painting, Spoliarium, won a gold medal in Madrid in 1884, and it became a symbol of Filipino suffering and strength. Luna's presence on the coin is a reminder of Filipino resilience, talent, and national spirit. The wailing Banda Sanderiana on the reverse side is endemic to Mindanao, specifically in the rainforests of Davao, Cotabato, and Zamboanga. Revered by indigenous tribes like the Bagobos, the orchid was considered sacred and used in rituals. By placing the wailing on the coin, the BSP acknowledged the importance of preserving biodiversity, the indigenous cultural connection to native flora. The beauty and uniqueness of the Philippine ecosystem. The wailing later became a symbol in efforts to promote environmental conservation and was proposed as the national flora alongside the SA and PAGUITA. In 1995, the Philippines was emerging from years of political instability and focusing on economic liberalization. Under the leadership of President Fidel V. Ramos, the government introduced, even if its face value was small, the coin remained essential to daily life, especially for low-income earners and commuters. The 1995-5 Sentimo coin was minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. It was mass-produced due to high demand for low-value currency in everyday transactions. The plain edge and brass composition were chosen for cost-effectiveness and durability, though the design remained mostly unchanged since the early 1990s. 1995 marked one of the last years the Flora and Fauna series was minted, as newer coin designs were planned in the background. Starting in 1995 and continuing into the early 2000s, the BSP began retiring the Flora and Fauna coins, introducing the improved Flora and Fauna series and later the new generation currency and BSP Coin Series in 2018. The 25 centimo denomination gradually lost practical use due to inflation. Its value was too small. Digital payments and rounding off practices decreased public usage and circulation. 1978 were used as everyday propaganda tools. Portrait. The coin features José Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines, known for his role in the country's fight for independence. Republica ng Pilipinas, Republic of the Philippines at the top. José Rizal below the portrait. The year 1978 is also prominently displayed. Design. The reverse side bears the Philippine coat of arms and the inscription, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Central Bank of the Philippines. Words, Ingi Bagong Lipunan surrounds the upper denomination. Large 1 piso, prominently shown. Composition, copper-nickel cupronic, which is durable and resistant to corrosion. The Philippines was under martial law, with President Marcos exerting full control. The new society era pushed modernization, discipline, and infrastructure, but was also marked by human rights abuses and censorship. The coinage of this period, including the 1 piso 1978, reflected nationalism, central control, and the regime's identity. The 1978 1 piso coin was widely circulated and used in markets, jeepneys, sari-sari stores, and schools. It had real buying power, enough to purchase snacks, bus fare, or a school lunch. These coins were mass-produced, making them common in circulation at the time. However, uncirculated or proof versions are now harder to find and can fetch higher prices among collectors. Condition is key. A worn coin may only be worth Philippine peso 5, Philippine peso 10, but a mint state MS or brilliant, uncirculated coin can be worth Philippine peso 100, Philippine peso 300 or more. Proof coins and errors like misstrikes or double dies can command higher values in the thousands of pesos. Because of growing collector interest, some fakes exist. The phrase Angi Bagong Lipunan tells the story of a political period that reshaped Filipino society. This coin is used in classroom settings to teach students about martial law, coin design, and economic history. It's a gateway to discussing how money and politics intersect. The late 1980s and early 1990s, the central bank began replacing ABL coins with new designs after the fall of the Marcos regime in 1986. This makes the 1978 1 piso coin a relic of a bygone political era. It represents a unique period of authoritarian governance. 1978, the Philippines was deep in the martial law period, declared by President Ferdinand Marcos in 1972. This was a time of authoritarian rule, suspension of civil liberties, and state control over media, institutions, and even the economy. The coin's design and slogan were tools to reflect the government's ideology. Angi Bagong Lipunan, the new society, was the government's rebranding of the nation, aiming to show discipline, unity, and modernization. Marcos wanted to project the Philippines as a strong republic. Coins minted in this era, like the 1978 1 piso, carried this political slogan to subtly promote loyalty and nationalism under his rule. José Rizal on the obverse was a strategic choice. Rizal symbolized intellectual reform, nonviolent resistance, and national pride. The government used Rizal's face not just as a tribute, but as a reminder of Filipino identity. Ironically, Rizal stood for liberty, while the government during 1978 limited freedoms. The late 1970s saw rising prices and foreign debt in the Philippines. The peso was weakening, and the economy was heavily dependent on loans from international lenders. Coins like the 1 peso were being minted in large numbers, but inflation slowly reduced their actual value. The Central Bank of the Philippines, tasked with producing and regulating currency, pushed out millions of these 1 peso coins. They used copper-nickel because it was a cost-effective metal and lasted longer in circulation. The quality and consistency of coin minting during the Marcos era were considered relatively strong. 1978, 1 peso was a high-value coin. With just 1 peso, you could buy it now. This coin was minted domestically using updated machines modeled after U.S. designs. While the government promoted Angi Bagong Lipunan, many Filipinos resisted silently. Artists, students, and activists saw these coins as symbols of repression. For some, spending the 1 peso coin with Marcos slogan was a painful reminder of lost freedoms. The 1980s and 1990s. As martial law ended, coins like the 19781 peso were kept by teachers and historians to teach young students about. Several Philippine museums, like the Bangko Sentral Coin Gallery, feature the 19781 peso coin as part of displays on the Marcos era. Coin evolution. The 1978 1 peso coin traces its roots to earlier reforms. In 1967, the Philippines replaced English on coins with Filipino, marking a push for national identity. This continued into the 1970s. Thus, coins like the 1978 1 peso emphasized Filipino language, heroes, and slogans like Angi Bagong Lipunan, reinforcing local identity under a strong centralized state. During the 1970s, President Marcos focused on infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, hospitals, and schools. The government needed physical money for salaries, public services, and spending. The 1 peso coin became one of the most minted denominations, used in paying wages and public contracts. While the government showed development, it also enforced strict censorship, curfews, and military checkpoints. The Angi Bagong Lipunan slogan on the coin was meant to suggest national unity, but many Filipinos saw it as a mask for dictatorship. The coin silently witnessed the disappearances, arrests, and military rule of the time. The Philippine economy in 1978 was controlled by a few elite families close to Marcos. The peso was artificially pegged, and the government borrowed billions. The coin system, especially mass-produced denominations, like the 1 peso, helped fuel a fragile monetary illusion. People had coins in their pockets. 1 peso coin in 2011 was a continuation of this evolution, bridging tradition with contemporary Filipino values. In December 2010, the BSP launched the new generation currency coin and banknote series. However, coin circulation mainly began in early 2011. This coin replaced the BSP Coin Series that was used from 1995 to 2010. The obverse front of the 2011 1 peso coin features the portrait of José Rizal, the Philippines' national hero. The words Republica ng Pilipinas, arching above. The year 2011. At the bottom. José Rizal is honored for his work as a reformist, intellectual, and martyr during Spanish colonial rule. The 20111 peso coin is made of nickel-plated steel, which gives it a silvery appearance. This was a change from earlier coins that used other metals like copper-nickel. Featuring Drive José Rizal on the 1 peso coin is symbolic. Rizal's role in awakening Filipino nationalism through his writings such as Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo made him a natural figure to be honored in the country's currency. The 2011 coin was the first 1 peso to feature the modernized BSP logo, which included 3 stars for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, a stylized Philippine eagle. This symbolized strength, independence, and a forward-looking economy. This coin was widely circulated for everyday transaction strands, markets, and daily commerce. As inflation rose in the early 2010s, the 1 peso coin retained its critical role in small value exchanges. While exact mintage figures for 2011 aren't always publicly available, the BSP produced millions of these coins due to demand and the transition from the older series, though not considered rare, high quality and circulated 2011 1 peso coins or errors such as misprints, double dies, or off-center strikes can fetch higher prices. Among collectors, immediately up to several hundred pesos or more depending on condition, and edge reading were intended to make counterfeiting more difficult, a concern especially for low-denomination coins. 2011, the Philippine economy was growing steadily. The BSP's release of new currency aimed to reflect a more modern and stable Economic environment. Coin redesigns also helped curb hoarding and counterfeiting issues seen in the previous decades. The new design was met with mixed reactions. Some appreciated the modernization, while others missed the familiar look of previous coins. However, over time, the 20111 Piso coin became a standard in Filipinos' daily lives. The 2011 design continued to be minted and circulated. The Philippines was under the rule of President Ferdinand E. Marcos, who had declared martial law. In 1972, this period was marked by centralized power, strong infrastructure development, and significant nationalistic propaganda. Amid political repression, the government sought to strengthen national pride, and coins like the 1 Piso became part of this messaging. The 1 Piso coin of 1976 belonged to the Angi Bagong Lipunan ABL series, which succeeded the Filipino series. Angi Bagong Lipunan, meaning the new society, was a political slogan promoted by Marcos. It symbolized reforms and a new direction for the country under his authoritarian regime. Features the left-facing portrait of José Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines. Republica ng Pilipinas, Republic of the Philippines. The year 1976 appears at the bottom, designed to reflect patriotism and the country's historical roots. Showcases the official seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, surrounded by the inscription Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. At the bottom, Angi Bagong Lipunan, reinforcing the Marcos administration's New Society campaign. Reform and nationalism. Rizal stood for peaceful resistance and intellectual rebellion, traits that the Marcos government ironically appropriated during an era of martial law. The inclusion of Angi Bagong Lipunan was a strategic move. Marcos wanted every Filipino to carry his political slogan in their pockets. Through coins and currency, the administration reinforced the idea of national transformation, often masking political suppression with symbolic reforms. The 1 Piso coin in 1976 had significant purchasing power, unlike today. For context, could buy a full meal or several basic goods in sari-sari stores. Inflation had not yet significantly devalued the peso, so coins were essential in daily life. Today, the 1976 1 Piso coin is a popular collector's item, especially in brilliant, uncirculated blue or mint state MS condition. Error coins like off-center, strikes, or double dies can fetch higher prices, typically valued from Philippine peso 20 to Philippine peso 300 plus, depending on condition, and even higher internationally among Filipino diaspora collectors. The coin is a time capsule from a turbulent yet formative period in Philippine history. It tells stories. Some believe the coin is made of silver. This is false. It's copper nickel, though its shiny appearance and weight may confuse people. Another myth is that it's very rare. Not quite true, unless in mint condition or bearing an error. The Philippine 1 Piso 1976 coin is more than just currency. It's a symbol of a political era, a piece of Filipino heritage, and a treasured collectible, whether for its historical. During martial law 197 to 1981, President Ferdinand Marcos used national symbols including money to communicate his ideology. The Angi Bagong Lipunan Coin Series was not just about currency, it was about influence. Coins like the 19761 Piso were deliberately minted with patriotic and state-aligned imagery to remind Filipinos daily of the new society vision. The repeated use of José Rizal's image, a nonviolent reformist who stood for education, nationalism, and justice, was ironic. The government portrayed itself as reformist, yet it suppressed opposition. This contradiction was embedded subtly into everyday life through things like currency. By 1976, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas (BSP) had developed the capability to strike coins locally using equipment acquired in previous years. These coins were machine-pressed using high-pressure dies to ensure durability, as the government wanted coins that would last for years. The result was a well-crafted coin with crisp detail and clear text. In 1976, the Philippine economy was experiencing a mixture of foreign borrowing, infrastructure projects, and public debt. The ABL coins, including the 1976 1 Piso, were among the first to feature consistent themes across denominations. The goal was to create a unified, easily recognizable coinage set. All coins in this series had the 1976 1 Piso. Coin circulated widely across the Philippines, from urban centers like Manila and Cebu to rural towns in Mindanao and northern Luzon. It became one of the most commonly held coins among Filipinos during the late 1970s and early 1980. During the Marcos administration, many government exhibitions, museums, and trade expos, especially in Manila and Quezon City, displayed the ABL series as examples of the new society's progress. The 19761 Piso was often part of official displays, showcasing national development. Beyond its monetary use, the coin carried an indirect message of loyalty to the state. In schools and public spaces, posters and educational materials used coins to teach nationalism and discipline. To key teens launched the Filipino coinage program. By 1970, the 10 centimo coin reflected the government's efforts to decolonize the currency, promote Filipino nationalism, and assert cultural independence. The previous English-based coins were gradually withdrawn and replaced with coins featuring Filipino terms and local heroes. The obverse front of the coin features Francisco Baltasar, also known as Balagtas, the legendary Filipino poet and author of Flora and Lora. His works symbolize the depth of pre-colonial and early colonial Filipino literature and resistance through art. His image on the coin was a tribute to the Tagalog language and Filipino literary heritage. The reverse back of the coin carries the coat of arms of the Philippines, with the inscription 1970 year of minting, and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Central Bank of the Philippines, which supervised coin production. The coat of arms includes the sun and stars representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the American bald eagle and Spanish lion, symbols of past colonial powers. Though martial law was declared in 1972, the political unrest began earlier. By 1970, student protests, economic challenges, and social unrest were already rising. The first quarter storm occurred in the same year this coin was minted. Thus, the 10 centimo 1970 was produced during a tense but transitional era, calm before the storm moment in Philippine history. The switch to Filipino language coins was not just cosmetic, it was a political message. It signified a new Philippine identity, breaking away from colonial dependence. The 10 centimo coin played a key role in daily circulation and symbolized the spread of the Filipino first economic policy. In the early 1970s, 10 centimo still had meaningful buying power. You could buy candies or matchsticks. It was often used in jeepney, fair change, and small-scale markets. The coin was light, easy to carry, and popular among street vendors and school children. Because it was made of aluminum, the 10 centimo coin was resistant to corrosion and lightweight. However, it was also easy to bend or dent, making mint-condition pieces hard to preserve today. The simple yet iconic design made it stand out from earlier American-influenced coins. In the 1970s and 1980s, many Filipino schools used the 10 centimo coin in math, history, and Filipino language lessons. Students learned to count coins, recognize heroes like Baltasar, and understand Filipino currency systems using these coins. After 1972, under martial law, this coin remained in circulation. The 1970 10 centimo coin of the Philippines is part of the Flora and Fauna series, a transitional coin design that symbolized a new era of national pride, modernization, and self-representation in the post-colonial Philippines. Though it's a small denomination coin, it carries deep cultural, historical, and symbolic meaning. The year 1970 was a turbulent time in Philippine history. It marked the start of what historians call the first quarter storm, a period of mass student protests, social unrest, and political instability that ultimately paved the way for the declaration of martial law in 1972 by President Ferdinand Marcos. Despite this unrest, the Philippine economy was still functional, and the country was producing its own coins through the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas (BSP). There was a growing push to nationalize the country's currency and focus on symbols that reflected Filipino identity rather than colonial heritage. Was ideal for a low-value circulating coin. During a time of economic constraint, the 19710 centimo was part of the Flora and Fauna series, 1969 to 1974, which replaced the English series that had been in circulation since the 1950s. This shift represented a movement away from colonial designs toward national imagery. It was part of a cultural rebranding that sought to make Filipinos feel proud of their heritage, land, and history. During the 1970s, the 10 centimo coin had modest purchasing power. It could buy small items like a piece of candy, matches, or be used to round off change. It was a widely circulated coin and commonly used in daily life by ordinary Filipinos. However, due to inflation over the decades, coins of this value gradually lost purchasing power and were eventually phased out of active circulation by the late 1980s and early 1990s. However, uncirculated or proof-like examples are valuable to collectors, especially those interested in. Today, the 1970 10 centimo coin is a symbol of an era filled with political awakening and social change, a piece of numismatic heritage, connecting collectors to the Philippines, efforts in creating a truly Filipino currency identity, a reminder of the country's rich ecological heritage. Through the use of native flora in national currency, the Philippine 10 centimo 1970 is more than just a coin, it is a historical artifact. It stands at the crossroads of culture, politics, and nature. From its beautiful balakot tree imagery to its presence during a time of national transformation, this coin continues to tell a quiet but powerful story. If you have this coin in